Yes, I am Liz Griswold, the Director of Education and Experience. I'm a woman who identifies as she, her, with fair skin and blondish hair. And today I'm wearing a black vest and a brown and black print top and some glasses. Well, welcome to our 2026 SEGD Voices webinar series. This series for 2026 is free and open to all as part of SEGD's commitment to professional learning, knowledge sharing, and community connection. And a little bit about SEGD, if you're not familiar, we are designers of experiences connecting people to place. We are a multidisciplinary community. We are graphic and exhibition designers, fabricators and architects, media developers and creative technologists, students and educators. And each of our members bring a diverse set of expertise, but we all share a common motivation to make the built environment more inclusive and intuitive, emotive and engaging, sustainable, and shared. The 2026 SEGD Voices webinar series is curated by the chairs of SEGD's professional practice groups. Our SEGD professional practice groups, or PPGs, that's how we like to abbreviate it, are open to all SEGD members. These groups encourage collaboration, innovation, and the exchange of knowledge across disciplines, offering members a platform to dive deep into specialized areas of experiential design. Each PPG focuses on advancing key aspects of our field from exhibition design and digital and interactive media to wayfinding and experiential graphics. And you can learn more at the link that will be shared in the chat. So today's session is hosted by our Wayfinding and Experiential Graphics PPG, and I am very pleased to introduce our Wayfinding PPG chairs, Daniela Pilosif and Amy Reese. I believe Amy will be joining us on the screen today. Welcome, Amy.
Hello, everybody. Just wanted to welcome everybody here today. We're so pleased to help curate this 2026 Voices series. This series really reflects SUGD's commitment to advancing professional excellence and knowledge sharing across those disciplines, as Liz shared, focusing in those three areas of digital and media, museum exhibition, and wayfinding and experience graphics. We're really pleased today to have some really great guests and speakers for you all. Today we have with us Jamie Shaw, partner with LMNL Studios, and their head of brand studio at LMNL, Paulina McFarland. Just a little bit about them as we kind of get into this. After an early career as a copywriter and brand strategist, Jamie shifted her storytelling energy into multi-dimensional experience design, preferring to bring narratives to life in the built environment through sensory touch points, with the idea to create a practice that paired architects and environmental graphic designers with technologists and strategists. She founded Liminal Studio alongside partners Marcus Gilliard and Nick Moser. She has directed innovative experiences for Nike, Disney, Adobe, and Google, served as director of brand experience at Mod Future Workplaces, and conceived globally acclaimed pop-up with a purpose, That Lady Thing. Paulina is the head of brand studio at Liminal, dedicated to activating brands through immersive experiences and omnispatial design. From concept through execution, she leads with a mix of sharp strategy, fearless creativity, and a love of visual storytelling, delivering design that is unapologetically bold, unmistakably human, and impossible to ignore. I'm so excited for this presentation today. I hope you enjoy it. You all enjoy it. Please welcome Jamie and Paulina.
Hi, everyone. Nice to not see you on this screen, but to know that you're there. I'll bring up our presentation now. Okay. So I think I'm sharing. So a little bit about how we're going to structure this conversation today. I was fortunate to be invited to speak at the SEGD conference a few months ago in San Francisco, and I presented the first part of what we'll share today, which is really about this concept of omnispatial design. That's a term that we coined at LMNL Studio. And then we will go more into Paulina's specific subject matter, which is about kind of the cutting edge of wayfinding and environmental design in terms of an experience journey. But I'm going to start by telling you how and why we founded this studio. It really informs everything about why and how we work our process, which is, I think, relatively unique. And it will kind of lay the groundwork for Paulina's more specific subject matter. So the first thing I'm going to do is tell you our origin story. It's a little bit of a roundabout narrative, but it does inform how we began using these technologies, and in specific VR. So our story began during COVID, and I went to see a friend of mine, Marcus Guillard, who is now my partner at LMNL Studio, at his fabrication studio, One Hat, One Hand. Some of you may be familiar. And I said, what are you all working on? It is COVID, it's a pandemic, you can't build anything. And he put me in a VR headset and he played me this. Play it. He brought me into this experience. And so I'm in a headset. I had never really experienced VR other than kind of being aware of gaming and the metaverse. And I'd had no interest. But suddenly I'm in this world and I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at. And it is a full-scale art museum that he designed with now another partner of ours, Eduardo. And I said, what is this? Who commissioned this? What brand is this for? And he said, nobody. It's not monetized. This is something Eduardo and I built so that we could understand, physical scale spaces when we're imagining building large scale artworks like this one. And he said, I can start to understand, weight and light and rigging and materiality and all these things because the VR is so good at simulating a physical environment. So I was just really blown away by this. I had never seen anything quite like it. And knowing that someone had done this just for their own sort of prototyping and edification was super interesting to me. Sorry, I'm going to pause there for a moment. And I thought it was important for two reasons. One was that I knew this was going to be really informative in the experience design practice going forward. And I wanted to work with people like this who could sort of seamlessly transition from working in the built environment, with architecture and engineering and construction, and kind of seamlessly transition to this world of virtual space making and pre-visualization in a way that was not intimidating to them. And I just thought this is the kind of thinking that really energizes me. So we got together, we started LMNL Studio, and we needed a way to describe our discipline because, as you all know, traditionally architects are working in their studios. Brand agency people are thinking about stories and strategy and kind of campaigns in their spaces. And then you have creative technologists who are potentially developing anything from, apps to projection to AR, VR experiences. And generally, those disciplines only collide when a client sort of brings them together at various points in a development process, but they're not often in the room all together from kind of moment zero. So that's what we proposed to do. That was the premise of our founding LMNL, and we needed a name. So we called it Omnispatial, and it's exactly what it sounds like, all spaces, the physical space, the digital space, and the virtual space. And in order to work omnispatially, you need all the disciplines, right? You need architects, environmental graphic designers, and people who understand wayfinding systems. You need strategists, you need creative technologists. And so that's the skill set that comprises our studio. Another way to think about that is story, space, and tech. That's easy shorthand for us. And it defines our process in a really high level way, which is we start with a narrative always. What is the story or the message we're trying to convey? What are the behaviors and the moods we want to evoke in an audience? And then once we know that, what is the space that would hold an experience that would evoke those moods or encourage those behaviors? And then while we're designing that space, what sort of technology might facilitate that journey? And how do we build it in really as a material layer, not something that is added later as a product, but rather something that is fully integrated almost as a material layer. So here we were, we started LMNL Studio. We have our omnispatial design premise. And we just began working using VR, as I've described it, as a prototyping tool. So we're using it not to develop end state VR experiences, but to just kind of to problem solve all the things that we were going to begin to make in the physical world. So early on, we were lucky enough to win a client, Ripple, who is a large fintech company in downtown San Francisco. And they brought us on to reimagine their workplace and create a new workplace in the downtown San Francisco area. Sorry, I'm going to skip this one and take you straight into Ripple. So what you'll see here is the fly-through VR experience of the Ripple workplace. Nothing at this stage was built. This was us sharing with them all the various zones and art moments, like the sculpture, all the digital screens, all the wayfinding in place, where you see it there on the ground, on the wall, how one moves around a corner. All of this was designed to scale using the architectural drawings with the actual finishes intended for the space and the actual furnishings, so that as you fly through it here, you really begin to understand how it's going to feel to work in that space, to navigate that space, to experience all these different zones. So that was our first large project, using VR in this really integrated way in our process. And it just became more and more embedded in our everyday lives. So this is quite, sort of like native to our process now. And it even allowed us to get really technical at an early stage. So when we were looking at volumetric sculptures here to kind of emphasize the verticality of this lobby space up into the second level, we're not only thinking about what it looks like, but we were able to examine sort of like how we would rig it and how we would make it, fit around the lighting grid. And even understanding how it is positioned around that stairwell so that someone can't, reach out and grab it from this position and swing from it. So it's such a powerful way using this VR to not only sell in the premise of some big ambitious thing like this sculpture, but to really begin prototyping in earnest before you've even touched a textile or begun to, spend money on a built object or environment. So now what I'm going to show you is the completed Ripple environment. It's going to look very much like what you saw in the initial fly-through render because, again, we're just demonstrating.
Ripple selected LMNL Studio to design.
Turn that off. We're demonstrating how true to life these renders can be in VR technology. So this already begins to feel familiar to you. You've seen it now twice in a render state, but this is the built finished lobby space. There's the sculpture pretty much exactly as intended. Everything as we had laid it out from our earliest sort of mood boarding and placements in floor plans comes to be in, a literally recognizable expression in the real world. So just show you sort of how this space turned out. You'll recognize some of the wayfinding you had already seen, large scale graphics. So as I said, this is just with our omnispatial approach now, this is kind of our first foray into the design. It's not something that happens late in the process. This is very much often when we're first presenting to clients, they're seeing it like this. They may have seen some mood boards, but we're pretty quickly getting into the physical dimensions of a space, the placement of particular objects or wayfinding systems, because the sooner that they can understand how it's going to feel in real life, the sooner we get buy-in, the sooner we're kind of moving along with the built thing and textures and materials. And this is an easy way too to knock things out of consideration. Sometimes seeing them in a three-dimensional space at scale very quickly helps a client decide that is not what we were looking to accomplish. So the next things I want to show you are some more detailed ways that we're using this technology. And this is an experiment really about light. This is for a mixed use development in Cyprus. And what we're looking at here is the way that the light is going to move across a day in a particular season in that part of the world. So another thing that's amazing about this technology is it's not guesswork so much. We can program the VR world that we build to understand, what season this might be in that part of the world at what time of day. And as you can see, it very beautifully captures how it might feel to be in that space where the shadows will fall, if having that much glazing is going to be problematic when the sun is bright. It's incredibly powerful. So all of these elements, when we're designing again from the beginning, we can consider so many different things that often aren't realized, until farther down the line. And then, without this sort of previs, you might end up having to rethink some of the physical environment. This helps us sort of problem solve before a problem might present itself. Another great use for this is doing, really complex engineering. This is a forced perspective installation we did for Intuit. And as you move around it, the letters sort of reveal themselves. So being able to pre-visualize that and understand how to engineer that in real world, kind of leveling that concrete and then how to move in through it and even see motion graphics here on a screen. We are testing everything from that built installation to how these graphics are timed and how they are playing themselves over not only a traditional screen, but also these columns we designed. So we're really mapping a whole experience journey. We're not just seeing things in situation at scale, but we're also seeing them with motion or transparency or whatever kind of complex engineering they may require, like that first installation. So now I want to take you back again at the very beginning of our studio sort of foray into this work. We were really interested alongside that Ripple project and doing a real world workplace. We wanted to think about how would this technology be meaningful as a prototyping tool for someone who expressly uses tangible, textiles or materials and really has no connection to a virtual world. How might they use this and why would it matter and what would it mean to them? So we reached out to our friend, the San Francisco artist, Wendy Chen. Some of you probably know her work. She's everywhere and she's amazing. And her work is with ropes and knots, very textile driven, very tactile. But we knew that she was an early adopter of VR and we really just wanted to have kind of an academic conversation with her about what it would mean to think about her work in a virtual prototyping situation. So we did this for SF Design Week a few years ago with Wendy in her studio. And I'm just going to play this video and let you kind of see in her own words how we use this for problem solving and what she got out of this experiment that we did.
Hello and welcome San Francisco Design Week. My name is Marcus Guillard with LMNL Studio.
I'm Jamie Shaw with LMNL Studio.
And I'm Wendy Chen. I'm an artist and we're here in my studio.
We're very aware that we're in this in-between time. That's why we've chosen our name LMNL Studio. It feels like we're in a moment that is not entirely physical and not entirely virtual either. That's still so nascent. So many of those tools aren't ready for prime time yet. But this feels like a really ripe time to do experimentation.
We have been able to show a strong representation of how we can keep ourselves grounded in the physical, but really offer this new tool for pre-visualization as an artist, for scalability.
I'm a knot tyer. Knots are sort of the language, the tools with which I create large-scale sculpture and installations. We made this for the SF MoMA, who just revived their legendary soapbox derby that they haven't done since the 70s.
It certainly has become an inspiration for the possibilities.
Yeah, I mean, like I said when we were chatting a few minutes ago, like the first time I really got into the car, my first thought was, wow, we need to do this again.
Yeah.
And we need to do it huge. I'm very interested in, this is the kind of pavilion that you see at a Biennale. That's the goal.
Yeah,
That's what we're doing.
It's been awesome to see your work here in your studio, but let's go and check it out in VR.
Great. Yeah. Let's go.
All right.
Awesome. Well, let's put our headsets on and let's check out Arche Virtualis.
Okay. Let's go on a virtual journey.
So, Wendy, welcome to your gallery.
Wow.
Yeah, right? This is the courtyard outside of we have an inside gallery and we have this amazing courtyard. We're looking at the same structure as the soapbox derby car. However, it's 30 feet wide.
It's huge. This is exactly what I was envisioning.
Just magical to be
my
inside of it.
God.
Look at the sky.
So yeah, really beginning to think about, structure and scale and materiality.
You can start to problem solve immediately, or you can, this is more information. So now I know if I was going to make this in the real world, how thick the rope would need to be in order to proportionally work, right? And I can start thinking about the diameter of each individual ring. Should they be this big? Should they be smaller or larger? All of those things become, you're not just guessing in the dark. You can actually see what what that's going to be and thus make better decisions.
To actually have to prototype that with real materials to figure those things out would be, from time and money standpoint, just not tenable a lot of the time.
Yes, indeed. And also, if you're thinking about showing this to a potential collector or an institution that may want to, collaborate in building this and exhibiting it, this is the way to show it to them without, having to build it first.
Okay, so thanks for bearing with that. I think it's a great example of a very authentic conversation we had with Wendy about what would it mean to you as an artist doing these very tactile things? How might we use this in your practice? And as you can see, with her aspiration to create a large-scale sort of Biennale pavilion, this becomes a really useful tool. And we tried to capture their sort of what we were doing in the virtual experience of her pavilion. Most of what you saw was watching that, not being in the first person view, but you got a sense of what we were able to see in that environment, looking up from under the dome. So that brings us around now to actual VR. On rare occasion, we are asked to create experiences that are meant to live in a headset. This is one such instance where we were brought on. This was a pro bono project for an organization called 300 for 300. And the founder there on the left wanted to highlight the stories of young girls of color telling their own narratives about what love means to them. So she worked with a filmmaker to capture these narratives. And then Liminal helped create this. She had this idea of the seed pod as this sort of chamber that one could go into, put on a headset, and be immersed in the stories of these young girls. It's very powerful and very successful in her hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, where it was sort of a community pop-up. And so now her next move is to take it on the road in a much larger expression. And we have been pre-visualizing how that might live in this newly envisioned kind of larger chamber. It's really like this inner sanctum of light and discovery in what's meant to be a bit of a broken down warehouse. So this is all in development. But what we're showing here is both sort of how you might enter the place where you will encounter these stories, and also just showing from a very logistical point of view, how one will come in, turn the corner, find a setting, sitting area, and then find your VR headset and put it on to discover the film experience. So this is, again, if you're showing an investor or someone who doesn't understand all of these things, it really takes you on a step-by-step journey of how one might enter that experience. And finally, I've just included a look at something we're working on now. These are some environments we developed for a museum, looking at some exterior gathering spaces and having some fun with exploring reflection. This is kind of a mirrored canopy here, and you begin to see the reflection of the trees and how the environment is doubled in that surface. So that is a lot about Liminal, how and why we were founded, what we're doing with this omnispatial process, who works with us, all in service of trying to communicate the ways in which we can use this technology, how powerful it is on so many different levels, and on to the deeper focus of today's conversation, which is really about kind of the new forays in wayfinding, which is Paulina's one of Paulina's areas of specialization. So I will turn it over to her.
Great, thank you, Jamie. Hi. So Jamie focused very much on visualization process, and I will talk about technology in signage and wayfinding, which is very exciting to me. So if we can go to our next slide. This is the most famous example of this virtual immersion in a city landscape. So what we had here in this great cinematic portrayal of city in 2019, believe it or not, is overlaid virtuality, flying cars, dense multilingual population, replicants, obviously. And so we're not very far off in my eyes from this. I mean, we don't have the robots and the flying cars yet, but we do have already massive holographic style advertising in cities like New York and Beijing and the like. We have personalization, which is very common, increased road traffic, of course, some of it thanks to autonomous vehicles. We have multi-layered guiding systems on our phones, gamified shopping experiences, advanced robotics are evolving, avatars, personal AI assistant, and that's happening at all times. And this will only get amplified. We also live in modern high density cities with multilingual populations, and we need to communicate. So there is noise, there is constant auditory and visual disruption. Because of this, we have learned to process information faster. We are experiencing increasing demand for more sensory stimulation and more immersion. So our audiences essentially crave similar shorthand that in real life as they are experiencing online, especially in wayfinding. So this rapid evolution of AR, VR, and AR, be it smart cars, smart glasses, holograms, virtual advertising, this will undoubtedly result in a layer of virtual immersion that is inherently woven into our physical environment. So on the next slide, I the proposition is this, that we need to, as wayfinding designers, match the speed of rapidly evolving technology. We have to break through the everyday noise on an individual level and ease the navigational experience. What this means to us as designers is speed and simplicity. These will be our guiding principles. So at Liminal, we inherently think of technology as a physical layer, and two, are obligated to adapt and keep up with the ever-changing habits of the users. This means leaning into multisensory wayfinding, such as light, sound, taste, smell, and touch, and leaning on AI, digital tools, IoT, mobile AR, and VR technology. So big thing right now is multisensory wayfinding, which is also omnispatial. And basically, it is an inclusive design that guides people through physical spaces using multiple senses, not just two. It essentially enhances accessibility for individuals with visual or hearing impairments. It utilizes tactile paving, auditory beacons, scent, color, and light, all of this to improve awareness of spatial navigation. So one of those ways, of course, of multisensory wayfinding is using light. If used correctly, light is a powerful navigational tool that complements signage and other wayfinding systems. So people are naturally drawn to it. We instinctively move towards illuminated areas, and as designers can definitely use it to our advantage. So light can do a lot for wayfinding. It defines primary paths, highlights decision points, and directs people through complex environments, and also sets mood and atmosphere, right? So warm light promotes sense of calm and relaxation, and bright lights near exits can actually be life-saving. They provide clarity and can be crucial in evacuation situations. But light can also create focal points and landmarks, whether it's a sculpture, or a building feature. Light helps people register where we are within a larger setting. So I want to show you a few examples now of our studio and how we use light and sculpture as a wayfinding beacon. So if we move to the next slide, you will see a project called Riz. This was a collaboration of our sister company, One Hat, One Hand, and Flying Carpet Collective, and this now resides in Texas. So this was called an alien nest, and it serves as a shade sculpture during the day and a lighted installation at night. But what I also see here is a place of respite and immersion in a very concrete surrounding. I mean, this is just basically pavement. So we know from our experience as EGD designers that color green, even applied on a wall, will provide a sense of, it'll trick our brain into thinking that we're basically in nature. And so for me, this type of beacon also communicates rest, sit, relax right here. On the next slide, this is another project. It's in collaboration with Aaron and Bloom. This was unveiled in 2022 at Outside Lands Festival in San Francisco in Golden Gate Park. And this is an 80-foot high windmill. And the beautiful part of it is that you can see inside of this sculpture. People can kind of look at the mechanisms that operate it. It has beautiful reflective surface, so it's really exciting during the day. However, at night, this piece functions as a beacon for the festival. So it's a critical wayfinding point and also a fun selfie photo. Next slide shows a recent project we just finished. This was commissioned by Destination Cleveland to design a monument that celebrates Cleveland's pioneering role in electric lighting. So in 1979, a Cleveland inventor, Charles F. Brush, came up with this system. It was basically electric street lighting. These were these beautiful arc lamps they designed and then placed on these very high tall towers. They were called moon towers. And so for a long time, he was the one who was programming, installing this technology in cities like Detroit, San Francisco, and New Orleans. And these lamps produced about 4,000 candles worth of illumination. I'll show you now on the next slide. There'll be a 3D render of it, but it also kind of it has that feeling of hearth and home a little bit. It's just this piece that feels very welcoming and heartwarming in this park environment. So next slide, we're talking about olfactory wayfinding. This is emerging. It's been around for a while, but it's basically olfactory spatial hypothesis that states that humans can follow scents just as well and similarly to animals, and we can detect differences in odor intensity and connect it to the space. So we can, as designers, create so-called olfactory landmarks to guide, identify, and mark locations. You can easily test that during Christmas, for example, or if you've attended a Christmas market. Studies also shows that humans can use odor-based navigation with proficiency comparable to other senses, and it has positive impacts on aging generations. So Center for Elder Research actually came out with a statement and said that scents are tied to past experiences, and they can reduce disorientation, help memory retrieval, relax, or activate. And then the final, in the next slide, the final kind of piece of this omnispatial wayfinding or multisensory wayfinding is acoustic navigation, and it involves combination of mobile apps and audio beacons, which are devices placed in buildings that send messages to users' phones directly. So Microsoft, in the next slide, I'll show you Microsoft Soundscape. It's a 3D spatial audio app that mimics real-world sound positioning. It's really a game changer for visually impaired.
Application that uses 3D audio technology to help you get around and explore your surroundings. Unlike step-by-step navigation apps, Soundscape uses 3D audio to enhance your awareness of your environment and helps you to discover new places and move more comfortably within unfamiliar spaces. Soundscape is a free iOS app and is available for download from the App Store. When you walk with Soundscape, various places such as stores and parks will be read out from the direction in which they are located.
Jones Records. Vegan Cafe.
It will also read out information about intersections and roads. You can discover places that you didn't know existed. You can set up an audio beacon at a location displayed by search or a saved marker. When you set an audio beacon, a sound with a certain rhythm will be played when you are heading in that direction, so you can approach the audio beacon correctly. This is useful when you exit a station and are not sure which direction you want to go. It will also tell you how many meters you have left to go.
Beacon. About 50 meters.
But basically, it's helping, it mimics real world sound positioning. It helps users understand direction, allows the user to switch effortlessly between the real world or the virtual world to help kind of richer understanding of their surroundings. And now you also can connect AirPods to it, and they track the direction of your head, allowing people to effortlessly hear the audio beacon and callouts in 3D. You can look this up at Microsoft Soundscape. So this is a perfect segue into talking about technology and wayfinding. So wayfinding is becoming, it's kind of going through a rebrand. It's becoming more of an intelligent infrastructure or spatial intelligence, as we will continue to see. So AI, AR, VR, and smart devices are transforming signage experience. We're moving away from static displays and into adaptive systems. This technology is not going anywhere. It's been evaluated $24.8 billion in 2022. It's predicted to hit $40 billion by 2030. And it's also changing our habits and creating a layer of experience that often goes beyond navigation. So currently, it's mainly used in these markets. It's used in transportation and healthcare, in cultural institutions, and hospitality and retail. And it's very useful for audience analytics, real-time content optimization, personalized journeys, predictive analytics, dynamic pricing in retail, and queue management. So this is a look at AI and transportation. Airports are an incredible study into this. They are becoming labs for intelligent wayfinding, have already become that. And one of the biggest benefits of AI in transportation, it's really giving power of accessibility to everyone from the elderly folks to vision impaired folks and even children who are traveling alone. This is Sunshine Coast Airport that's partnering with Bindi Maps. And the technology they're using, so GPS fails indoors essentially. Airports and hospitals rely then on beacon networks, Wi-Fi triangulation, and UWBs, which is wireless communication technology using high frequency radio waves. And that's done for precision. It also enables Bluetooth technology navigation, which is similar to Google Maps inside complex terminals. So by analyzing data on foot traffic, flight schedules, and crowd density, AI can predict and manage passenger flow in real time. So this means that airport staff can adjust dynamically staffing needs at different security checkpoints. They can open new lanes before a queue even forms. So beyond apps, I hope we can get this to play because this is a really fun example of AI at airports, and that's personalization. So I believe this is Delta Airlines parallel reality. This gentleman essentially is walking through the airport. He is scanning a QR code, and he can then look up at the screen, and this will actually say hello to him personally. So it's a completely personalized experience. It calls him by the name, it gives him his destination, it's allowing his departure time, and it's just kind of delightful, I think, for a lot of people. So we will see a lot more of these bespoke check-in experiences. This is a great video also that is basically, AI is helping tremendously with accessibility, and this is of great importance to us environmental and signage designers. And I think this example actually is the best use of ChatGPT I've seen, especially on mobile. So this gentleman will essentially have a conversation with ChatGPT app, and he is giving it directions, specifically his gait and his time of arrival and kind of his level of ability. And then ChatGPT will have an actual conversation with him. It will scan the environment for obstacles, for crowds. I think at some point he actually was even talking about getting a coffee. This app routed him in real time to a coffee place and then determined that the queue was too long. He wasn't going to make his gate, and he kept going to his arrival destination. So this is really powerful tech. Now I want to pivot to something also very exciting to me as a signage designer, which is the use of AR technology in pre-visualization of signage systems. So having AR be a part of EGD for designer workflow is very kind of forward thinking. Imagine being able to test, to map, and to evaluate the signage system without printing a single sign, single piece of paper, or creating any mock-ups. So this is actually what was done. This video showed how people were moving and kind of adjusting signage systems. And then I want to touch on hospital environments. If you have ever designed a wayfinding system for a hospital, then you know it's one of the most complex ways to move through a building. And designers for signage systems are continuously showing and always looking to simplify and streamline the experience. So this is a perfect solution. This gentleman, if you play this video, this gentleman, or if we can hold on to it a little bit, this gentleman essentially was checking in at a kiosk, scanning an AR, scanning a QR code, and then going on his phone to his destination. So it's a really streamlined experience. But basically, this is very widely used now. Technology and cultural institutions, as I mentioned, augmented reality is taking interactive digital wayfinding to the next level. Research shows that AR actually reduces cognitive load compared to traditional maps and improves spatial orientation. Visual AR cues outperform audio guidance, especially indoors. AR bridges digital guidance while preserving awareness of the physical environment. And so augmented reality has been very quickly adopted as a standard in cultural institutions, and it's a means of storytelling that's incredibly rich, and it improves kinesthetic learning. So once we used to have guides, and we used to just have the solitary experience with headphones and had to read little numbers on the walls. This is no longer essentially needed. You can create a personalized dimensional experience in real time with quality visuals and audio layered content. So one of the greatest examples of it here is the Interaction Lab at Cooper Hewitt, and it used cutting edge technology to bring to life millions of 2D objects at the Smithsonian Open Access Collection. And you know, at basic level, AR is immersive and it's fun and it's appealing to younger users. So as audiences become more tech savvy, we can leverage this to transform navigation experience and have it become a lot more engaging and maybe even educational. And then I wanted to touch upon at the end for hotel and hospitality industry and how actually biometrics and AR technology are changing that experience. So biometrics are controversial still, but they do provide a very easy kind of travel. They provide seamless check-in and access. So facial recognition enables instant identification. It allows you to bypass the front desk. You can use your face to access rooms, elevators, and amenities. It provides contactless payments. So guests right now can authorize payments at kiosks with facial recognition, in some cases, palm vein scans. It reduces the need for carrying cash or cards. There's also a certain level of personalization. So different systems can recognize returning guests. They already will have certain settings saved. For example, room temperature, preferred beverages or lighting, or your habits, or even times you have to wake up. Enhanced security. So biometrics provide higher security than traditional keys or ID cards, and also allow hotel staff to restrict access to sensitive areas. There's also reduced lobby congestion, so staff can engage at a higher level. They don't just need to stand there and answer countless questions about navigation. And at the end of the day, the experience for the guest is very convenient, it's faster, and it's very high tech. So this technology adoption is rapidly growing, especially in Asia for high-end contactless focused services. However, the industry is still leaning towards a hybrid model that blends automated convenience with personal human service. So this is kind of the overview of all these markets. I'm going to leave it here, and thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you so much. This is really great. I appreciate you sharing all of that. Just as we start to talk, if anyone has any questions, please drop them in the chat for us. We'll be sure to ask them. But I just had a few to kind of get us started. And I think one, Paulina, just because of you kind of presenting towards the end, that came to mind to me as we think about both parts of the presentation is that multisensory wayfinding that you spoke about. I'm curious how you convey those multisensory experiences as you conceptualize them to the client. I mean, light and sound obviously is pretty easy to do in the VR AR, but specifically around the ideas of the scent aspect to the wayfinding, like how do you conceptualize those with your clients?
I think we are yet to have, it tends to be kind of a dance. I think it's still at this point, an experience that enhances the space. I don't think we will only ever in a building or a workplace or a hospital rely on this as a wayfinding system, period. But I think that, it's basically an add-on. It's something that is exciting. And I think a lot of our clients want to have exciting experiences for their workplace, for example, for their employees. So, yeah, it's not been a part or a necessity for a wayfinding system yet, but we definitely try to bring it in as kind of an enhancement of hospitality experience in workplace. I don't know if you have anything to add. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just say that on that very first workplace example that I showed for Ripple, there was a lot of talk about where the cafe was situated and creating a wayfinding system that started from the most explicit, descriptors of places that you needed to find. And then sort of as you got closer, creating these breadcrumbs that became more visual and iconic. So something that said cafe or dining hall may have then kind of been reduced as you got closer to just a teacup or a fork. And then what we talked about with them was, as you got even closer, could you rely on the smell of coffee beans roasting? Would that be enough? So I would say that at this point, it has come up in the conversation as sort of a provocation to clients to say, like, what do you think about that? Are you open to that? Could we rely on that? It has not been relied upon, as Paulina said, as a standalone element, but it has entered the conversation in terms of like, what would that mean? If you were roasting your own beans there, like that would be a very present smell in the space. And once you got to that floor, you would kind of, your nose would take you there. So
Right.
I would just say, so far it's been an organic conversation point.
Great. It's really exciting to think about all those different sensories and how we experience things. I guess kind of a broad question for our audience here is, what advice would you have to design teams that want to incorporate this kind of technology, but maybe we don't have the staff or we don't have the skills in-house, or we want to we want to add, like, how would we bring forth this type of design thinking? What would your recommendation to us be?
Should I take that?
Yeah.
I can start, and then maybe Jamie can add her thoughts here. So I think this is, I think we leaned into the point here that our audiences are also evolving. And I think that people are used to technology at this point. And I think that's kind of the selling point for us. We're also, we understand the benefit of having these visualization tools. They help us sell the concept to the client. And I think that's another thing that some clients just can't make that mental jump, of seeing something on paper. As designers, it's not a necessity, but it is where everything is kind of, we're in this place of technological evolution. Things are going forward, they're moving forward. For us, it's just keeping up with our audiences, really. That's how we see it. And then for clients, for example, that AR train station, what a fabulous way to present a project where you can actually, with a client, walk this space, evaluate how high these signs are. Is it visible? Are we actually doing what a signage system is supposed to be doing, which is moving people through the space, through a crowded space? So in certain places like hospital, I do think that this actually is critical. And I think it would solve a lot more problems, faster. And then it saves money at the end of the day.
And Amy, sorry, can you restate the first part of your question? Were you asking sort of how
Yeah.
people start with it?
Yeah, I think, I think the people on the call here are a mix of large organizations and small organizations, and some might not have these technologies or have the team that can like kind of embark upon it. So like how do you just suggest that the best way to bring some of this into our design thinking, kind of at a very basic level?
Yeah. So I would encourage sort of an omnispatial approach, which is bringing in different disciplines. And even if you don't have them on staff, IDEO, as part of their process, often would call kind of subject matter experts from the world or people who specialize in particular content or expertise. And they would bring them in and just sort of make them part of a focus group. So like a very simple thing you can do is bring in some people, be that students, interns, technologists, bring them for a day, do a workshop. We do workshops all the time. Often our first step with a client is let us do a half day workshop with you and just sort of get your head in the game of thinking omnispatially. And then if there's client interest and there's traction there, then maybe the project will afford you bringing someone on as a consultant who can help you start to dip your toe into these things. But I will say a lot of the students today coming out of design schools are thinking this way. They're already working in a multidisciplinary way. They're using these tools. We get a lot of outreach from graduate students who are like, I've been looking for a way to like use these technologies because they're more familiar to me. So there are people out there who are thinking this way and using these tools, and you can find them. They're often very young and really hungry to get some real world professional experience.
I see a few questions in the chat, but I know we're kind of running close on time, so let's get to as many as we can. One of the questions was, how much does budget impact your choices for wayfinding approaches? How flexible are clients with budgets? Do they prioritize the experience level over the cost?
You want to talk about that one, Paulina? I'm going to answer this other one in the chat.
mean, it's a budget question. Maybe you take it.
Yeah, I mean, budget clients come in with an idea of their budget range. We show them all the things that could be, and then we find out how real their budget actually is. And if it's fixed and if it's narrow, then oftentimes they're going to default to a more traditional standard signage package. However, sometimes once they're exposed to, a digital screen might be a heavier investment up front, but once they realize that a digital screen is forever, updatable, it's like it's the way better thing for their budget. Using AR or using screens that can be have content updated in real time. It's like there's sort of no question about what's actually the better financial move. So sometimes it's just educating them, and then their budget changes. And the last thing I see here, how often do you incorporate the Omnispatial VR AR conceptual design? We use VR in every project we do. It is part of our drafting now. So we show mood boards, we show vibe, kind of design ideas. And as soon as they're leaning in a direction, we get the physical, we get the floor plans, we bring it into VR. It's a relatively quick process to export it into VR. And then we start putting our designs in situ. It's the way we work now. It's not an added service. We don't charge for it. it's part of our design process.
There was one earlier that I don't want to miss. The question was, how do you navigate issues with client expectations versus reality after they see the VR rendering? Have you encountered any challenges or issues with that, managing those expectations?
I would say we've skirted that issue because of the VR. When you see it in VR and you move through these scale environments, like it's as close to the real built environment as you can get before you've built the thing. And of course, we still do material prototyping. So, we make a fly through, we show them the previs of what we're selling in or proposing. And once they like something there, then we're right back to, meeting them at the studio and showing them, here's a concrete look, here's brick, here's, and so we don't skip over the tactile piece of it. But I think, Paulina, you can answer that. I think we avoid them not knowing what they're getting when we show them this.
Yeah, and I think it's just really not showing it too early. We're showing it at a right time, right phase where they're already sold on concepts, and now there's also speedy iteration. You can change things, change materiality really fast. So it really isn't like disappointing the clients, just giving them extra, I think, and giving them a better experience of already kind of approved concepts. So yeah.
Great. Well, I could ask you questions for days, but I know that Liz has some things that she wants to wrap up. But I just want to say this was amazing. And thank you so much for sharing all of this with us. I hope the rest of the audience enjoyed it as much as I do. And like I said, I have way more questions. We can talk offline later, but thank you.
Thank you. And anyone can feel free to reach out to us. LMNL Studio is online.
Thank you, Paulina. Thank you, Jamie. Thank you, Amy. That was an amazing presentation. And I agree, like we could just keep going on and hearing all the things. I did want to share that if you're interested in participating in our PPGs, so our PPGs are curating all of our voices this year, you do need to be a member. So for those who are not SEGD members yet, new members can use the code WELCOME26 for a 26% discount. And if you are a returning SEGD member, please feel free to share this promo with your network to help grow the SEGD community. Also, the 2026 Global Design Awards entry portal is open. The SEGD Global Design Awards celebrates designers and design firms whose work innovates the practice of experience design and enriches the human experience for people of all backgrounds and abilities across the award's 7 categories. The late deadline is February 28th and the final deadline is March 15th. So get those entries in. And if you would like to resubmit a past entry, just reach out to us so we can help you in that process. And SEGD Branded Environments is coming to Los Angeles, March 17th through the 19th. And this is going to be one of the world's most influential centers for sports culture, entertainment, and immersive brand experiences. So over 2 days of talks and tours, SEGD brings together designers, brand leaders, architects, technologists, and venue professionals to explore how experience design is reshaping audience connection across sports and entertainment. We also have our SEGD boot camps and tours held at ISA this April 7th through 10th in Orlando. Go ahead and register today. And International Design Day is coming up, and SEGD is thrilled to be the hosts for International Design Day 2026, so keep an eye out for some events coming up. We have XLab in New York, July 21st through the 23rd. Our conference experience is in Kansas City, October 22nd through the 24th. And check out our website for all our upcoming deadlines tied to Global Design Awards, the Academic Summit extended call for abstracts or call for papers, and all of our other events. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you soon.